much for joining me today. My encouragement for you today is you can loosen up by just using one of these kind of balls, a tennis ball, a trigger point ball, or a lacrosse ball. So let's jump right in. Tricks to loosen up with the ball. First one is stand up and roll your foot on a ball. You're going to try to roll 5 to 10 times. If you find any type of tight spots, there's going to be something there. So I want to have you be able to try to work through that one a little bit more. I'm just going to show kind of a brief, quick summary of all of these. Second one is the outside part of the calf. That one's going to be a little tighter for a lot of people with the way we walk when we overpronate. So that's called the peroneus longus. We're just kind of working through, getting about 5 big deep breaths. You can find different areas of that outside part, and all I'm doing is just pressing down from my leg into that release spot. So once you find a trigger point, it's kind of basically, it doesn't want to release until you take some big deep breaths. So what you want to do is take 5 big deep breaths, try to work through that, even do it multiple times, and then work through different spots or sites as well. Next one, we're going to sit up here on a chair and we're going to work in between the glute and the hamstring. This is a great way to be able to loosen up some tightness in that upper hamstring. And all you're going to do is sit there on it, slight bend in the knee. You can just kind of tilt from the hip, just kind of leaning forward just a little bit. And on this one, you're just doing 5 where you're leaning forward into that position. You can find different spots on the hamstring, of course, work into different sites. I move the ball down just a little bit closer to my knee and kind of try to find another spot. If you feel a little more tightness in one spot, just work again in that spot a little bit more. And you notice I'm not rounding my back, I'm just leaning from the hips as I'm doing this one. And then we switch, we try the other leg. This one's a great one also if you're sitting down and you're working at a desk at a computer through the day. You could just be kind of adding and trigger pointing a little bit on some of these while you're in between a couple different things for work. And I do this different times through the day. You want to get a hard chair, don't want to do it on a couch, so you want to be able to have some pushback from the chair. I'm just using a little kid's chair here to be able to demonstrate. And that one feels good. That's a great one to be able to loosen up there through it. Okay, next one, you're gonna lie down and you're gonna work on this inner part of that vastus medialis. That's the quadricep. That's the biggest, strongest muscle of those quadriceps. And that one we wanna be able to try to release, just pressing in. If you do a lot of cycling, hiking, or if you're a runner, that one's gonna be a little bit more tender. And so this one's a great one to be able to try to release there into that spot. And you're just pressing into it, taking big, deep breaths, finding right into that little knob, kind of that almost like a little dimple there. And if you notice, my back is flat. I'm trying to not arch my back up or kind of lean up onto my hands. I'm just kind of relaxing down into it, working on the breathing as I work through it. Okay, now we're going to shift into the glutes and the hips. So I'm going to cross the same leg that I have over. That I have my hand back. So I bring my right hand back and there I could feel it nice and tall. Breathe from the diaphragm and just sink into it. Just work on some breathing as you're sinking into it. And you should feel that start to really release there when you're working into that movement. And then switch sides. Of course, if you have any tightness on any spot, just work a little bit more on any of these. Good, working in through it. That's a good one because when you're sitting, the glute muscle turns off. So we want to keep those glutes and hips loose. It's a great one to be able to work. Okay, now we're going to come right on the front of the hip. This hip flexor muscle is called the psoas, P-S-O-A-S. And there I'm going to come down nice and flat, relaxing my head down onto my arm, and just pressing that leg down into it. And then I slide it down a little closer to the knee. This one's gonna hurt a little more. We're gonna work the quadricep now. And then I bend my knee 5 times, creating that knee flexion. When I get that knee flexion, I'm creating a contract release into that movement. But by working on one spot at a time, you're gonna really start feeling better. Your whole body is gonna start releasing. It's gonna help with posture alignment as well. Good, try that side, nice and relaxed. Holding right there on that hip flexor, kind of right into that deep hip pocket. Hip flexor shorten when we sit, so this is another good one for a lot of computer workers. And then we go the 5 on the bend. Okay, now stand up and we're going to work into the pec minor. So finding right in between where the front of your shoulder is and the clavicle or the collarbone, kind of press into that little dimple, that little gap, and I just use both hands, press in. There's some nerve endings and there's a lot of blood tissue and arteries that run under there, so you don't have to over press. But that one's a great one. It's really good on helping to release some rotator cuff strains, helps with posture. That muscle wants to pull forward. It wants to rotate or protract forward. So that one's a great one. Very good release there. And then last one is put the ball in a sock and you're coming back against the wall. You're gonna keep this arm that you're working on, that side, keep that down, and then try to prevent your hips from leaning forward. Kind of push your hips back towards the wall. Don't go onto the scapula or the spine. You want to be able to just kind of find one of those muscles in between that area to try to release. I hope you're feeling these because they work. Working 5 big deep breaths. Was the routine using a ball. If you take your time on each spot, find those trigger points, you can release a lot. It'll help you to feel great. Thanks and have a great day.